He is joining us from the road via cell phone, so if he cuts out, he'll call us right back. Congressman Ron Paul, he's been a busy man out there speaking to millions of young people around the country, and we're doing a great job exposing collectivism and the path this country's going on. And on this Friday edition, a few days after the election, we have a couple of minutes here, 30 minutes or so, with Congressman Ron Paul. Congressman, I don't know how you do it, holding up under something that a young man couldn't do, but great job getting the message of liberty out during the campaign.
Well, it's been a lot of fun and tedious, and of course at times frustrating. But what really gets me going or keeps me going is what everybody knows is that I have identified with a lot of young people, as you have. You know, I'm going to the campuses, and that's why I've never dwelled on D.C. D.C. is important, but D.C. is a reflection of what the next generation is going to be thinking about and realizing. So that's where I'm optimistic. Washington's as big as best as ever. But there's reason to believe that all the freedom organizations, your radio show, we're all making some progress and more in the last 5 years than we did probably in the previous 20 years.
Absolutely. Look, Bev Harris, who is, as you know, one of the top voting fraud experts in the country, she's nonpartisan. She says a lot of Romney votes didn't get counted. They called states long before they should have. That article's up at Infowars.com. I know it looks like you're a spoiled sport if you talk about election fraud, but it's been certified and proven over and over again. I don't so much see it as a mandate for collectivism that Obama got reelected. I see it as a mandate that people have been dumbed down and that Romney wasn't really somebody who was really speaking out against Obama. But when you make the statement, Congressman, that the U.S. election shows we're far gone, can you elaborate on that?
Well, yes, and the subject comes up because the big talk now is the fiscal cliff. And in many ways, I work on the assumption that we've sort of gone off the cliff. Nobody realizes because we haven't hit the bottom and we don't know what the ramifications are. But in the election, what I was thinking about at that time was that one of the things that Obama was able to do was play on fear of those people, you know, in the Rust Belt, who are used to artificially high wages and jobs and bailouts, and he played on that. So in many ways, it was those individuals in Ohio and Michigan and Wisconsin are saying, hey, you protect me, take care of me, make sure my checks are coming. And I said it's not a whole lot different than the way they line up on the streets in Greece. You know, don't cut anything, and the people who are on the dole won it. So in that way, that side of the argument won. But I'm not as down on what happened in the election because 12 million decided not to bother, which isn't all that bad, you know, because they decided they looked at Romney and they looked at Obama and says it's not worth the effort, and they know this whole system is rigged against us if we try a third party, so they just said the heck with it. And but I think those are our supporters. I mean, I think those are people who probably listen to you and pay attention to me, but they know that, you know, the current system isn't working. But I think we're the majority. There's no doubt in my mind, if you take people who have dropped out a while ago or dropping out now and not enthusiastic, wouldn't vote for either of them, I think they're listening more to what we're saying.
That was my next question. I saw some of the breakdowns in areas of Florida and other places where there were massively less Republican voters just not voting this time around than voted 4 years ago with McCain and Obama. And I looked at the numbers and the demographics. I think you're alluding to this, so I'd like you to expand on it, Congressman. Congressman Ron Paul joins us if you just tuned in live here on this Friday edition, that it is the Ron Paul Libertarian Constitutional True America group that was snubbed and demonized and attacked and drummed out by the Rockefeller blue blood Republicans that just didn't vote. I mean, I know that I ended up not voting because of that. Richard Reeves, one of my crew members who was one of your delegates, he ended up not doing that. Most Republicans and conservatives and libertarians I talked to just said, hey, let Obama come in and bring in total communism. Let's let everybody really see what this is like. No more of these fake Republicans who are basically exactly the same, Republican in name only, counterfeit conservatives. I mean, what I'm hearing is people are voting by buying 4 or 5 million guns a month, and they're done.
Yeah. No, people are hunkering down, and they realize this. And the big question, the big job we have is when the major crisis hits, the really big one is, there will be a revamping. There's always a restoration of a currency that people can at least trust for a while or are told to trust it, and they have to have restored confidence in a government. And right now, though, the contest is between us who would like very limited federal government and a lot of self-government versus those who want to march onward. Not to see, I don't usually use the word carelessly, but onto a form of just socialism. But it's a form of socialism that's called fascism, and that's why I dread the combination of big government and big corporations. And when you look at that, whether it's medical care or the media or the military, the Goldman Sachs and the banking industry, that's who's been in charge, and they're going to hang on tenaciously. So our challenge is very great, but our numbers are growing by leaps and bounds, and people, because of the crisis, they're looking elsewhere because they know that these economic policy of Keynesian and the inflation of the Fed, they're not confident that they can do it again.
There's a term out there, Obamaism or Obamaism, basically communism, and you just said it as someone who studied history and also finance and economics. They're always saying, oh, we have the choice of fascism or socialism and the extreme of socialism, communism. But Stalin and Hitler had a pact together. They divided Poland in half. Stalin admired Hitler and adopted much of what he did. Mussolini and Hitler were actually National Socialists. They socialized things for the general public, but allowed mega robber barons to have a centralized fascist economy. And historically, that's what I've seen, just studying history myself, is you get a socialism or communism on the bottom with powerful, exempt elites or empires that are incredibly wealthy, with the general public fighting over scraps. And I mean, this is the type of real definition we need out there, that liberalism we hear about is not liberal at all, like Thomas Jefferson, a real liberal. This is a virulent authoritarianism.
Yeah, and when these changes occur, if National Socialism is defeated, they have no trouble becoming communists. In the communists in Russia, the KGB became sort of corporatists. All of a sudden that was amazing to me that in 5 years that you had these billionaires, and then I found out that it was the KGB that ended up owning most of the big businesses. They did have more of a market economy, and you can't complain about the Soviets falling apart, but really many of the same people stayed in charge. So they're very flexible. They want power and money and control, and what they call it is secondary to that.
Sure, and again, the proper definition of Obamunism, which I hope everybody adopts, is the high-tax, big government, economic growth-killing, centrally planned economic regime favored by Barack Hussein Obama, essentially the same as communism and socialism. And, I mean, if this isn't Obamunism, I don't know what is, Congressman. When you talk about we're already over the cliff, when you talk about, we are basically far gone, that's not negativity. That's historically being accurate in my well-researched view. But can you flesh it out? You talked a few years ago about something big is coming. Break down where we're going, because I've seen numbers even in the Wall Street Journal that our per capita government debt, individual debt, is far above Greece's even. And so how you expect historically, you've predicted so much of this, what you expect to now unfold as we see the economy imploding just days after Obama gets back in.
I was always impressed with talking with the young people on the campuses and telling them how bad I see things. And then the comments afterwards when I would talk to them, they say, you're the only one that gives me hope. And they come across very optimistic. And I think knowing the truth and what to do and offering them something else is a reason for optimism. But my point about us being over the cliff means that I don't work on the assumption that all of a sudden there's going to be an agreement in December or January, and they're going to solve spending and deficit problems and the entitlement. Nah, that's not going to happen. So we're over the cliff in that sense, and we're falling off. We just don't know the entire consequences of this. So I see the consequence being that there will be more and more debt and more inflation. The money will finally come out and start bidding up the prices even more so. And today I wrote a little thing commenting on the Germans wanting to get their gold holdings out of the Fed holdings up in New York. And I said, maybe this is the crack in the seams where they're losing confidence of the supremacy of the dollar as well as the supremacy of our political system. You know, we went through depressions, we went through world wars, and we always came out on top. You know, people said, and even now, I mean, we're still on top in the sense that when they have a crisis day in the markets, people will still buy those stupid government bonds, you know, because they don't know where else to go. But I think this idea that the Germans are saying, hey, do you really have our gold? And what if they find out that the gold isn't there? What if they decide to go along with our concerns and check and say, tell us where our gold is as well? And that, to me, will combine with the recognition that the war that we took upon ourselves, the drone war and the unwarranted continuous bombing in this global war on terrorism is going to be something that we can't handle because just having a lot of nukes on submarines can't solve those problems. And if we get weakened with our dollar and financially, I think we'll be a paper tiger militarily. And then I see what would happen then is a movement for all the countries that we have belittled and badgered and you know, bombed. They're going to love to come piling on us, and it'll be interesting to see if in the next year or two this whole thing about what Germany's talking about might not be in the opening salvo on an international attack on our dollar.
And Congressman, as you know, there's a bunch of other countries, a lot of Latin American countries led by Venezuela that are pulling their gold out of England, out of the euro, out of the U.S. as well. And so we really see the battle lines being drawn. We see the Chinese trying to get away from treasuries. And then here at home, we did a National Harris poll for Infowars.com that just came out yesterday, a scientific poll. 35% of Americans would accept the electric shock bracelets that the TSA, actually with Homeland Security 2 years ago, looked at adopting, where we all wear taser bracelets. That way we're all safe. I'm not joking, folks. And also 30%, or nearly a third, in the same Harris poll, said they would accept a TSA body cavity search. And this is not satire, ladies and gentlemen. Congressman, you yourself have complained of the abuse at their hands. And now we've seen other Congress people complain of it, and it's getting more intense. What is your take on the 1.6 billion bullets now being purchased by Homeland Security? What is your take on the TSA now on the highways, all of this expansion of the police state?
Well, it's all preparation. They say just in case there's an emergency, we have to restore order. Some of them are probably sincere in the sense that we can't control events. They didn't control events. They didn't know when the storm was coming. But if it does occur, you know, they want to, order is what they want. They want order, and therefore it doesn't prove that they have something absolutely planned on paper exactly what they're going to do and when. But they also know the fragility of the system, like we know. We know it's fragile, and we know that whether it's a storm or a financial crisis, that people are going to get unruly. And my argument is that it is a moral issue, but there's a lot of morality that needs to be taught because people who give out government services they believe themselves to be very moral. Just like, you know, the thug on the street, he doesn't necessarily lay awake at night for what he has done wrong. But I think as the government breaks down and can't provide the services, that immorality will be expanded with the people, and the people will say, well, the government has to do this, and they're not forthcoming, so therefore I am going to take what is rightfully my own. And I think our enemies know that, and they'll say, well, even though they have pretended that they were going to take care of everybody who needs help, they're really there to control them. So this is why I think they lay these plans. But it is rather scary, especially since the founders didn't even want a national police force. We shouldn't have any federal agents other than our military to have guns. And now we have hundreds of thousands, I don't know the exact number, I know it's over 100,000 federal agents who are carrying guns, and that number is going to continue to expand. It looks like they have a lot of guns if they're buying a lot of bullets.
So basically, do you agree with the, my boil down that they know the collapse is coming, they're digging in for it, while telling the public it's bad to basically be a prepper? I mean, why doesn't government want us to be preppers? 11 days without power now in many areas of New York and New Jersey, and all government is doing is frustrating the efforts. It's churches and citizens that did prepare that are actually holding things together and giving their neighbors food. Some estimates are more than 60% made no preparation. They're just begging the government. That's the Obama disaster plan, is to have just, I guess, a bucket you beg for government handouts from.
Yeah. Well, that'll come to an end. I don't know if you saw it, but this picture should be used by all of us to show exactly how efficient they are. Did you see the picture of the FEMA office up in New York? They had the storm, and then the northeastern come in, and the snow came, and the sign says FEMA office closed due to weather.
Yes, I did see that.
Did you see that thing?
In fact, guys, pull it up. FEMA office closed due to weather. It's all over the place. We can show people watching on TV.
Isn't that something else? That is so symbolic of the idiocy. And, people always, they went after me for having condemned FEMA for so long and voting against it, in spite of the fact that I took care of a coastal district. But I won that argument over with my constituents, because I did more to help them get around the bureaucracy and get through the bureaucracy. And when the police or the feds wouldn't allow them to go in and get their property, we would go to bat for them. So the people themselves are a little bit further ahead than the politicians and the media people think they are.
Absolutely. Congressman, moving quickly now in the last 10 minutes we have left with you. What do you expect Obama to do now that he's got 4 more years? In his victory speech, he talked about how we're a collective, we're not individuals. Very creepy kind of "you didn't build it" statements again. He's got constituents literally that just beg incoherently for their free Obama phones. I'm not trying to be mean. It's just very, very sad what dependency does to people. And now they are just racing ahead saying UN gun treaty. And now Dianne Feinstein, it's on record, says she physically wants California style, not just a ban on sale of semi-autos. They want you to turn them in. I mean, that could cause a civil war, Congressman. People are not turning their guns in.
No, that's right. And, politically, they generally back off on that. In the last several presidential elections, even this one, Obama didn't campaign on stricter gun control. That doesn't mean he won't work for them, but he knows politically it's not popular. And I think those are drawing the lines in the sand. If they knock on the door, they want your gold and want your gun, I don't think people are going to give them up. But that doesn't put them out of business to harass us. They're going to maybe put more limits on buying ammunition, more taxes on it. They're going to make it more difficult for you to sell your gold or use your gold, and maybe have 50, 70% tax on your gold. And they will do this, but that'll just drive the underground economy, to a much greater height. But no, they will continue to do that. So I don't know how this treaty will pan out. I keep always wanting to be, a bit optimistic and say, they can't possibly do that. That's going against the grain. So once again, it's going to be up to us to reach people and not reach just our hardcore friends. I mean, that's why we have to reach out to a new audience as well and say that they have to join us in these efforts. And I'm hopeful for that, because we do have the internet, and I know they're trying to attack us there, but we're still able to get more information. Right now, we're riding high on our internet abilities compared to the 3 major TV networks.
Absolutely. Are you concerned about the internet kill switch, cybersecurity, and all these calls to reinstate the fairness doctrine for talk radio?
Yeah, I am concerned, but I also hope that technology is so big and so broad that the private market is able to overcome any obstacles. So, and I don't understand exactly how all that works.
Sure.
But I hope I'm not naive to think that people can, develop their own protection. But ultimately, the only thing that counts, whether it's guns, the golds of the internet, or war, is to awaken the people to saying, we're not going to put up with this. Governments reflect the people.
Sure. Expanding on that in the limited time we have left, going to move quick now, Congressman, because I want to get to several other points here. I'm very glad to see that you've taken back over Campaign for Liberty now that you're not running for president and about to finish up there with Congress. So congratulations on that. Very exciting to see you in there because I know you know like nobody else can drive it right with all the grassroots. What do you make of the Republicans and this new spin that Republicans need to get more socialistic and become the Democratic Party to win, when the reason the Republicans have lost, in my view, is that they've gotten so unconstitutional, people are just standing down. That's what the numbers show. What's your take on this talking point we're seeing that Republicans should just adopt Mao Zedong's views?
Yeah, it's just diversion because from where we are in this country today, and when we look at our political system, we only have one party, so we're already there. It's just tone and rhetoric is slightly different. So, yeah, they may move a little bit in that direction, and what they say has nothing much to do with what they do. And that's why, we have to watch what they do and where they go. But going in that direction, of course, would be the obviously wrong thing. And I think it's becoming more clear because we don't know the exact numbers of support that we had in the campaign, but it's bigger than they gave us credit for. And I keep thinking of those 12 million that refused to vote. Some of them, maybe a large number of those are sympathetic to us. So therefore, our numbers outside are significant. And I still work on the assumption that it is that attitude that eventually prevails. I mean, when the attitudes changed in the Soviet system, communism, fell apart because it had no strength left, and the people no longer supported it.
Absolutely. They can only steal from one group to give it to the other. And as it gets clearer and clearer that big government doesn't work, it'll finally implode. That's why we just got to keep working, keep getting the word out. Congressman, is it time for people to apologize to you and myself and others for talking about the Bilderberg Group and the Davos New World Order crowd? Because now in the Financial Times of London, Reuters, AP, they say there is a global government, technocrats, mega bankers, they're going to run the countries, they're going to appoint the leaders, they're going to get us at a fiscal cliff, hold us hostage. I want to play you a brief clip here from the Kudlow report where they announced we're slaves to international bankers. Here's that clip, Congressman Paul.
So mostly what they do is hold summits. I think that right now the question is, do we all work for central bankers? That's what I want to address to our guest tonight. Is this global governance at last? Is it one world, the central bankers in charge? Jim Urio, you say we've got some downside here, a correction in the markets. Fine. But aren't we all just living and dying for what the central banks do? Aren't we all just counting on the fact that there's a Bernanke put and that we won't go any lower than, say, 5% down from here?
Of course we are.
All right, let's stop there. And then all four guests agree we're under world government. They're bragging we're under world government, but then I hear we're not supposed to talk about it, Congressman. Isn't this our strength and not our weakness that we've been right about this? Instead, now we're being told we should not talk about this?
Well, obviously, we should talk about it. The fact that they don't want us to means that we really have to talk about it. I've written a speech that hopefully I get enough time to give on the House floor, a farewell speech, and I listed 5 major problems that we face. And one of those 5 is international government. The fact that it's the UN, WTO, IMF, and the World Bank taking over, deciding when we go to war and how to deal with trade wars. The whole works. So I would say giving up our national sovereignty, it's bad enough that we've given up individual and state sovereignty to our federal government, but I see the giving up of our national sovereignty to internationalism, and they claim, well, they need the WTO to have free trade. They need the WTO to protect the powerful trading special interests, the internationalists. So, yes, that is a big issue, but don't hold your breath on getting your apology because I don't think Chris Matthews is going to call you or Rush Limbaugh is going to call you in the next week or two.
Absolutely. Well, we only got a minute and a half left. Congressman, I hope you can come back again soon. I don't want to kill you, literally, making you work so hard, but thank you so much for coming on the broadcast. In closing, we just want to thank you for all you've done, and can you talk about also the vindication that they now admit, all over the news, LA Times, you name it, that Al-Qaeda was put in by the UN and NATO and our government in Libya, now in Syria. We'll fade the music down for a moment, and is now blowing back on us again. Your comment on that?
Yeah, well, it shouldn't surprise any of us, because I think when that started, and just at the very beginning, I made some projections on that, and before you knew it, the weapons and the support we were giving to certain groups were turned against us. So it's, I don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be a genius to figure out.
Very well said, Congressman.